stereo, just full blown. That's just like the coolest sound, you know? I love it. I love it. Just times I'm sitting here working and I'll just reach over there and just do it. And so, yeah. Hello, all you free thinkers. How are y'all doing on this here Monday? Hello, all the moderators. Thank you so much for your time. And wow, y'all are just fabulous. Lois, I got your email and we'll just get a date here. We're going to do a fundraiser for Lois's pantry. You know, Thanksgiving and Christmas is a big time, and we like to contribute in this community to her good works. And hey, listen, you know, people appreciate it when you put food in their belly without any obligation. That's why we love it. So hello, Sarah, Casey, how are you, my dear? Marguerite, Robert, good to see you. Stefan, David Barry, how are you, my friend? I didn't see Big Al in here. Hey, Susie Q, how are you? And everybody else. It's just so good to have you. This is a fabulous day. It's cold here, and September was tied, I think, with the hottest September that they've kept records here in Denver, and it looks like October is going to be the coldest. So, hey, you got to, you know, listen, nature is telling us something, man. You have to excuse me. I'm dealing with a sore throat, and it just it happens sometimes. Couldn't get on the show yesterday, but hey, I'm here. So we were talking recently about, you know, the Schumann resonance, and the Earth is just, yeah. So anyway, let me just invoke favor upon all of you and me too. You know, the most divine type of favor there can be. And divine can mean many things, you know, for you, whatever it may be, whatever is in your life that is lacking, we speak, may there be no lack in your life, nothing missing, nothing broken. It's how we roll here, folks. And yeah, we enjoy it. Happy birthday to all those who are having one. You know, someone wrote me and said, thank you for mentioning that those who are having a birthday. And, you know, hey, it's the small things in life, folks. The poquito, you know what I mean? Yep. So just loving life here. And it has been really cold and snowy here. And so it's a perfect time to, particularly when you're not feeling really good, you know, you're getting your body back in tune and, you know, getting everything adjusted right. And for a lot of good reading. And a lot of good reading. And so been doing a lot of that, which kind of brings us right into the subject matter of today. Just stopping in and seeing everyone in the chat room. Tomorrow, Trina will be on. She's down there where it's beautiful. She just sent me pictures and it was like, I mean, you know, let's get the radio out and just get a little bit of suntan lotion going. That's what I'm saying. So, y'all are just doing so good. I'll tell you, y'all are just the best group of people. You really are. It's just an honor to come here every day and just sit with y'all and discuss things. And today we're going to discuss something, folks. Quite frankly, I've been thinking about this probably, I would say, the greater percentage of my life, taking the full 64 years. And if I look and you divide this up, the last third has been one that has been a deep dive, you know, and it's still, I think we're still diving or still climbing. I don't know which one. I mean, you know, in space, how do you determine what is up and what is down, right? I don't know. Think about that one. So anyway, I've been thinking and had great discussions with my wife. When you think about how ridiculous it is for man to think that we are somehow advanced, I I marvel when I hear and I read where people think man is the end all to be all. I don't know. I mean, is there anything other than ignorance that man is probably king of? You know, the top of the heap, so to speak. I think man dominates ignorance. I think man, in many cases, dwells in ignorance and has been in ignorance since what can only be defined, ladies and gentlemen, as a very, very recent amount of time. Now, this gets really interesting when you think about the amount of time modern man has been walking on this planet. And it would appear to me that man entered into the land of ignorance on his way to enlightenment and got stuck in the land of ignorance. And in the land of ignorance, we have stayed. We've never ventured outside. Only a few, those who, you know, leave the tribe and figure it out. But the vast majority of Homo sapiens sapiens dwell in the land of ignorance. Our reality is based in ignorance. Our theology is based in ignorance. Our science is based in ignorance. In fact, you could say everything that we do is based in ignorance. We're the only species. We don't know where we came from. We don't know how we got here. And yet we got the audacity to think that we can figure out what spiritual life is and what, much less the universe. No. We live in ignorance, and we are the God of ignorance. Maybe the God that man worships. We're going to get into this. So the question today, folks, put aside all of your biasness. Inherently, we all have bias. It's just the way it is in this realm. Ignorance breeds bias. It really does. Ignorance breeds fear. Ignorance breeds pain. So the question on our show today is, so you think you're a human being, huh? It's the most absurd thing. Again, our ignorance comes through. But we as a species think that. I'm asking you personally, do you think you're a human being? Let me ask you this. Do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe that you have past lives here on earth? Do you believe some unseen deity created man out of dirt? Do you believe that humans are less than 6,000 years old? Now, we can be really flippant about this and give the standard ignorant answer, and it's ignorance. But we got to push this aside and ask ourselves, all right, so what's going on? Think about this, folks. We can look out into the cosmos. They tell us that it's 15 plus billion light years. You know, 1 light year is 6 trillion miles. Now they're telling us it's nearly 16 billion light years. So do the math on that one. Okay. Now you look at the cosmology of time in the universe. Well, it's been around a long time, apparently. Now you put that into relation about you and me, us. We're not even a blink of the eye. But yet we've got this all figured out, right? Yeah, we got this figured out, heaven, hell. We got that figured out. Yeah, well, we got this thing. We don't know anything. And that is what leads us in our confusion. So allow me to present for your review a little presentation that I think is going to prove to be I don't think it's going to be controversial. I think it's going to be informative. All right. So you really think you are from here? We talk about DNA. We talk about the double helix. We talk about the fact that probably, who we were copied off of. I guess copy is a good word. Had apparently 12 strand DNA. We only got 2. So that right there tells us that something's wrong here. So here's a question. I've posed this before, and, I never got any good answers. And it came up again in the reading I was doing. Who owns Earth? It's not humanity. Humans no more own this planet than, the man in the moon. We think we do. We are at best unwanted guest here. Yeah, people don't like to hear that, but so who owns the earth? I can assure you someone does. It ain't us. It's someone that's way above the hierarchy scale. We're talking a pay grade that no man or woman could ever obtain. So the earth is forever changing. They say it's 4.5 billion plus years old. All right, that's fine. So we know that in the cosmology, the evolution of planets, we see how they're being formed. We still don't know how, but we're learning. And how that goes from that to that. Okay? And the earth is still changing. So let's talk about how old things are. They say, here it was 13.8. Well, we've extended the view. They say the Milky Way, about 13.6 billion years old. Our sun, 4.5 billion. And some say that the earth would match that in its forming. Okay. Now put this into the focal point. How long have humans been around again? And you look at this, no matter how many light years, no matter how many billions of years, based on, a 1 second increment, and we're saying there was no intelligence, no consciousness, all during this time? That's pretty arrogant, right? But people die in their belief systems that somehow or another we're superior to all this. So I ask this question. Define what human being is. I bet you can't. What does it mean exactly to be a human being? Isn't it odd that we call ourselves this, but yet when I've asked people, and I had the chance to ask people, define to me what human being, you would, again, it was an ignorance. Well, you got to be aware and be, it's like, seriously? All right. Let's just take one point of view of what it may mean to be human being. And being is small. B, a culture-bearing primate classified in the genus Homo, especially the species Homo sapiens. Human beings are anatomically similar and related to the greater apes, but are distinguished by a more highly developed brain and a resultant capacity for articulated speech and abstract reasoning. In addition, human beings display a marked erectness of body, carriage that frees the hands for use as manipulative members. Some of these characteristics, however, are not entirely unique to humans. The gap in cognition as in anatomy, between humans and the great apes, the orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, and the bonobos, is much less than was originally thought. We're still learning, guys. We don't even know where we came from. We're trying to figure this out, that, maybe they're related, maybe. Okay. As they have been shown to possess a variety of advanced cognitive abilities formerly believed to be restricted to humans. We've seen this. We know that gorillas think, have emotions. They love, they cry, they weep, they mourn. So tell me, what's the difference? Oh, well, they can't speak. Well, you know what? There's a lot of humans that can't speak either, but they certainly know how to communicate. Well, but we were created in God's image. Okay, you keep on holding that thought. We're going to address that. So genetically, ladies and gentlemen, this is our ancestor right there. Yours, mine. Genetically, we know that this is absolutely correct. You can argue it all you want to. I mean, that's just your bias and your ignorance coming to surface. It's the fact of the matter is, genetically, we now know. There's no mystery to this. Traditionally, humans were considered to be the sole recent representatives of the family of Hominidae. But recent findings indicate that chimpanzees and bonobos are more clearly related to humans than gorillas or orangutans, and that the last common ancestor between the chimpanzee and human lines lived sometime between 7 to 6 million years ago. I mean, even if this is true, 6-7 million years is nothing. Therefore, all great apes are now gathered with humans into the Hominidae, and within that family, humans and their extinct ancestors are considered to make up the tribe of Hominidae. Now, the Human Genome Project in 2005 broke this down. It's not a mystery anymore. We know that there are genetic codes within us, genetic markers that go way back. Again, the RH factor, folks, the RH factor. Now, here is the the joker in the deck. The Cro-Magnons, from the earliest known European examples of Homo sapiens sapiens. They form the earliest known examples. The term falls outside the usual naming conventions for early humans and is used in a general sense to describe the oldest modern people in Europe. It's very important here. Cro-Magnons lived from about 40,000 to as recently as 10,000 years ago in the Upper Paleolithic period of the Pliocene epoch. For all intent and purposes, these people were anatomically modern, only differing from their modern-day descendants in Europe by their slightly more robust physiology and larger brain capacity than that of modern humans. Now, the whole debate has always been is the fact the reason why we're smart and we're at the top of everything currently is because of our cranium capacity. These people had a larger cranium capacity. When they arrived in Europe about 40,000 years ago, they brought with them sculpture, engravings, paintings, body ornamentation, music, and the painstaking decoration of utilitarian objects. Excuse me. So what's Homo sapiens then? I mean, now we've got this, who were the Cro-Magnons? Why did they go extinct? They were smarter than we were. That's the reality. We continue. Homo sapiens is Latin, means wise man, the species to which all modern human beings belong. Homo sapiens is one of several species grouped into the genus Homo, meaning man, but it is the only one that is not now extinct. So what caused these other relatives, the other genuses of man, Homo, to go extinct? Particularly when we know that sapiens were around at the same time they were. Created out of dirt, are we? The evolutionary history of the primates can be traced back to nearly 65 million years. Okay, that puts us right there about the same time of the extinction of the dinosaurs. The oldest known primate-like mammal species, I think this is the Pelodopus, came from North America. They were widespread in Eurasia and Africa during the tropical conditions of the Paleocene and the Eocene periods. With the beginning of the modern climates, marked by the formation of the first Antarctic ice in the early Oligocene around 40 million years ago, primates went extinct everywhere but Africa and Southern Asia. Now, fossil evidence has shown that we can bring this down to about 16.5 million years ago, then some 1.5 million years older than the similar species in East Africa. So, but then again, if you're one of the people in the camp that said there's no way a human being can be related to any of these primates, well, I don't know what you do with that. Well, all right, so maybe I can help you with that. So let's talk about the origins of Homo sapiens sapiens, the modern ignorant humans. Because again, if we were not ignorant, we wouldn't be in the shape of this way we are in the world today. And and it's so convenient to blame it off on devils or angels or ETs. It's all their fault. They're manipulating us. Maybe we're just ignorant. I mean, could be. All right. Scientific study of human evolution concerning the emergence of humans as a distinct species. It encompasses the development of the genus Homo, as well as the studying of extinct human ancestors, such as Australopithecus, thank you, and even chimpanzees, the genus Pan, which are usually classified together with genus Homo in the tribe of the Homonia. Modern humans are defined as the Homo sapiens species, of which the only exact subspecies is Homo sapiens sapiens. So, technically speaking, we, Homo sapiens sapiens, we are a subspecies of Homo sapiens. Going backwards, isn't it? There is substantial evidence for a primate origins of humans. This is Meyer's report. You can get it 2001. Anatomically evidence, human beings exhibit close anatomical similarities with the African apes, and particularly the chimpanzees. Compared to apes, the few unique physical characteristics of humans are the proportion of arms and legs, opposable thumbs, body hair, skin pigment, and the size of the central nervous system, such as the forebrain. Fossil evidence, numerous fossils have been found sharing human and primate characteristics. Now let's get down to the molecule level. Evidence human molecules are very similar to that of chimpanzees in some, such as the hemoglobin, that are virtually identical. What the hell do you do with that, Mary? How is that even possible, ladies and gentlemen? How is that? How is that constructed in us? I mean, has to be a reason somewhere, doesn't it? Unique, are we? Not showing that, is it? The closest living relatives of Homo sapiens are two distinct species of the genus Pan. The bonobo, the Pan-Pancuscus, and the common chimpanzees, Pan-troglodytes. Through a study of proteins, comparisons of DNA, and the use of molecular clock, that is a method of calculating evolution based on the speed at which genes mutate, scientists believe the Pan-Homo split happened about 5 to 8 million years ago. Well-known members of the Homo genus include Homo habilis, about 2.4 to 5.4 million years ago, Homo erectus, about 1.8 to 70,000 years ago, Homo heidelbergensis, about 800,000 to 300,000 years ago, and Homo neanderthalis, about 250,000 to 30,000 years ago. What's happening here? Blows the hell out of the garden story, doesn't it? Anyway, Homo sapiens have lived from about 250,000 years ago to present. Between 400,000 years ago and the second interglacial period of the Middle Pleistocene period, around 250,000 years ago, the trend in cranial expansion and the elaboration of stone tools technologies developed, providing evidence for a transition from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. Based on molecular evidence, the calculations of time of divergence of all modern human populations from the common ancestor typically yields about 200,000 years ago. I don't know. Then something happened. That's the weird thing. Notably, however, about 50 to 40,000 years ago, human beings appeared to have taken a great leap forward when human culture apparently changed at a much greater speed. Humans started to bury their dead carefully, made clothing out of hides, developed sophisticated hunting techniques such as pitfall traps or driving animals to fall off cliffs, and made cave paintings. Additionally, human culture began to become more technologically advanced in that different populations of humans began to create novelty in existing technologies. Artifacts such as fish hooks, buttons, and bone needles began to show signs of variations among different populations of humans, something what had not been seen in human culture prior to 50,000 years ago. This great leap forward seems connected to the arrival of modern human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens. Where did we come from? We literally appeared on the scene. I don't know how you begin to rationalize this, but then have we had clues? We think that us bipedals simply mean the erect forms that we are. But it would seem, according to our ancestors, Well, they weren't all human. Partially human, apparently insectoid, part avian, bird. Yeah. And then when you look at the migration, why so many variations? Particularly dealing with where we come from, where Homo sapiens apparently have our lineage to. Remember, we're sapiens sapiens. The only thing that you begin to look at in this conversation is that we've looked at this in so many different ways because we were looking at it in ignorance. But what if we began to look at this in the term of a species, bipedal, probably has human, man traits, but we're nothing more than geneticists, scientists. And they were probably very, of their total culture, they were just a part of their culture, very advanced beings that this is what they do. They're geneticists. They take material in an existing world and begin to create in their own image. We're learning more and more, particularly from the Egyptians. They were very well versed in this knowledge. Part something, part human. Seems that they also knew how to talk directly to one sort of these geneticists. And recently discovered in the Mesoamerican cultures, particularly in this case, the Mayan, we have a whole different story of the history of man. Because oddly enough, here is another mystery. Mesoamerica was virtually unknown to what they call the fertile valley of creation of man. These talk about beings coming from the sky and intermixing with humans, specifically blood, in different variations of man, part animal, part man. Sounds to me like a race that came down that were genetic scientists. They called themselves creators, and man worshiped them. We know that the technology of those before us, and even those that were among us, were using technology that the ignorance of modern man hadn't begun to fathom in just until the last couple of 100 years. But because of the way that we are wired, man always puts that which is not understandable in the form of gods, superhumans that go beyond the ability of man's thoughts. This is to Jethro Tull. In the beginning, man created God, and in the image of man created he him. We're going to learn a little bit more about this. So I ask you, is this fantasy or is this real? Which is it? Is this just merely expression of poetry, imagination of man, in the fact that there could have even been creatures, hybrid creatures, from a race of beings, a species not even in like man? That this is what this species has done for billions and billions and billions and billions of years. Wherever they go, they begin to become God again. They have a God mentality. Literally, it's a Godhead mentality. Literally. They knew advanced techniques of how to mix bioforms down to the cell level. They apparently use these for sports. So is this fantasy or real? Is there some old white dude called God sitting up in the clouds looking down at all the rest of the races? Black, brown, red, yellow, you get it. Is this fantasy or is this real? You'd be surprised how many intelligent people think that this is real. Hell, virtually all of them today still think this is real. Yeah, we could talk about this a little bit more. You know, the thing about gods always behave like people who created them. Isn't that wild? All the modern gods of the world today are all murderers, psychopaths, narcissists. Couldn't be that that's how they were created. And humans, we can't accept even the possibility that all we are is an experiment. All evidence shows that is the case. And folks, the genetic code is breaking down. There's something about to happen. You see, what we're not being told, but what we're seeing is that we are going through the single largest evolutionary leap in the last 70,000 years. Our DNA is being recoded, literally. The DNA that they gave us was flawed. That's why we have the diseases that we have. You know, people have interpreted this from stitching to, oh my goodness, everybody's had a stab at this one. But why don't we add maybe the real truth here, that this is nothing more than a petri dish? That's all it is. That's all we are, is the result of geneticists, advanced beings from other star systems. No God, no, whatever you want to flow it to, nothing more than a genetic experiment. It's what they do. It's what they've always done. So again, the earth is 4.5 billion years old. Started to be able to support life, probably, who knows, we don't know, maybe 100 million, maybe 500 million years ago. Who knows? And even then, no records of us, but there were highly advanced civilizations that way before us. Where'd they go? Hard to say. What we do know, if you look at the human genome, what it showed, that we are a hybrid. Sapiens are hybrids. Unlike our ancestors, who were more of the genetic makeup of their subspecies, modern man, probably, I'll give it 10,000 years. Maybe we survived the comet that hit, 13,000 years ago. We obviously survived what the Bibles and the other mythos tell us about a deluge. No, God caused it. But in any case, what do you do with the genetic code? You can't deny it. I guess you could. Most religions of the world today still do. That's ignorance. Again, that's the theme here, ignorance. So not God, just a scientist. They looked somewhat like us. We look somewhat like them. That's all it is. Just a scientist doing what they do. But throughout all of our history, we have the drawings. Well, these are bipedals, but they're not us. They look like us. And we've got variations on this theme all over the world. Not human, but part human. Now, these bird-like creatures, they're everywhere, all around the world. I have no doubt that this is what this species is. Probably more reptilian, probably more bird-like in their origins. And the evidence shows that this is probably who made us or had a part into it. These are highly advanced scientists. Hard to believe, isn't it? But they're part human. They have a knowledge that goes beyond anything of our capability of beginning to comprehend. And it really kind of brings the only answer to the recentness of us. But you still got people somehow believing that, this thing that lives up in the heavens, that we call God, came down and made man. An atom is what we call. No, come on, folks. Seriously. We've got to advance our thinking. We're doing it right now. Modern man, Homo sapiens sapiens, we are now gods. We're creating life in the lab. We're creating half human, half animals. We're doing exactly what our creators did. Again, something happened. Certain theologies say humans are less than 6,000 years. That's preposterous. They go in such detail of trying to give a genealogy chart. It's preposterous. Has no foundation in reality other than the reality of ignorance. And if you look at this, you've got this, this thing about where apparently there were twin earths. You had Earth and then you had Eden. Eden was governed by physical laws as close to those found on Earth as is possible, given the constraints listed below. They were inhabited by animals and beings as close to those found on Earth as is possible, given the constraints listed. So, two different ones. Now, the Earth was governed by the physical laws as would be described by complete physics, and is inhabited by unconscious, conscious, and rational beings, including, of course, us humans. Are we the only occupant here? I don't think so. The saying is, if God created man in his own image, I have no interest in meeting him. Why would I want to meet someone that created this? Obviously, they have a different plan than what my perception would be. But in the end, what we're really finding out here on Earth, everything is connected. Everything. The different kingdoms. And if we are, in fact, merely the makeup of all this, then it kind of brings back, well, this is no God. What's going on here? It's been always the great debate, science and religion. This is a great article in the LA Times, says that God did not make man, but man made the gods. We do it all the time, folks. That's why there's so many different religions. No one single God. None exist. So what did some of the greatest minds of the 21st century have to say on this subject? This is Stephen Hawking. Had a lot of time to sit around and think about it. And you think about it. He said, I believe the simplest explanation is there is no God. No one created the universe and no one directed our fate. This leads me to the profound realization that there probably is no heaven and no afterlife either. We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe, and for that, I'm extremely grateful. That man was far more wiser than I was, a lot smarter in his cognitive thought. This is what his conclusion was. Man created God, not God created man. Tesla said, what one man calls God, another calls the laws of physics. I can go with that. I think you and I can pretty much say, all right. So who or what created us then? And any way you look at it, folks, to call yourself a human being, well, then that may in fact be what it is, because human beings on the cosmological scale is so finite. I wish I could say millions of years, but there's no evidence of that. The best we can do is tens of thousands of years. And folks, we haven't progressed. They say, well, humans are advancing. I don't know. Is that even possible? It gets back to that debate. How can you say perfectness exists when imperfectness dominates? Because if perfectness was the beginning, then that means that imperfectness came from perfect, which means that perfect was never perfect to begin with. And now you're going to say that we're going to be divinely advanced human beings? I don't think I want to be a human being. I don't even know if that's even possible. Unless you're saying we are a new creation, that the geneticists, that we're one of the most uniqueness of all bipedals in all of the universe, in all of history of the universe. Man, I don't know. The way it's going right now, this is most likely the human future right here. The T1. It's what the military is working towards. It's what Silicon Valley is working towards. It's what virtually every government is working towards. And when you think of the Milky Way, we're just one of trillions of galaxies that go beyond the comprehension of most people to stop and think about. The distances are too great. The time spans are beyond comprehension. The question has always haunted man. Are we in fact separated? Some say yes. It all indicates that we are an experiment. Because if you look at this, in a lot of ways, we're the perfect laboratory. There is so much around us that just to get here is a challenge within itself, what you have to go through, the Oort cloud, and then the Kuiper belt, and then the asteroid belt. Earth is in a most unique position, almost as if we were artificially put here. In some beliefs going around, it is known as the free will zone. Our solar system, just us. Just this quadrant of space means anything goes. Very well is why the battles that took place in space, that our ancestors can still remember. And folks, I think it's about to get serious again. I think we were just in a temporary lull. I think the group that owned this quadrant of space that got their ass kicked by the current ones that are here has been spending time regrouping their forces, and I believe there's going to be a full onset battle to enter into our solar system for Earth. The planets like Earth are very rare. We can't find anything close to it. We've got candidates, but nothing like us. And when you talk about a galaxy, that's where you get the term galactic age. It's when a planet or star system reaches a point from where it started to begin to spin around the galaxy, and it's considered as an age. It usually takes 26,000 years to do a trip around the Milky Way. Think about that. How we get to go around when it's how many hundreds of thousands light years? So I've really found that, the prime creator, we're going to talk more about this. The whole idea of a prime creator is absolutely opposite of what God is. And it's not opposite in the term of good, white, bad, etc. It's defined as the chief director of the universe, leading personality of the spiritual hierarchy, the main interpreter of the divine will of the prime creator. And we're going to get more into it. I've been reading about 2 different books already on this, and I've got a couple more behind this. The only thing that it could come out to is this. There has to be higher intelligences. We've seen it throughout many sacred books of many different religions, different philosophies of going back thousands and thousands of years. It seemed like there was a hardcore press about 2,000 years to remove this knowledge, to completely erase it from our memory. And again, things are happening, folks. I don't believe that humans are alone. I think we have ancestors all over the place. Some say the Pleiadians, some say the Draconians, some say, the Orions. There's, to me, a lot of good evidence that life is everywhere. And I believe that that life is more intelligent than us by a long shot. But I believe that there is something else about us that we haven't even begun to fathom. When you look at these stars at night and you look up there and you begin to think about it, that there's no life? No, folks, we can't be that ignorant in our arrogance. One thing I do know is this: change is constant, and our change is about to be changing again. So, again, I am just put my thoughts together. I know some things are controversial. Some things are just far more than what some people psychically can handle. They get what we call cognitive dissonance. But I get that. But if we look at the fact that our lives are here, we know we're living it. If we look at the fact as well is that death is the inevitable, we all hope that there is something greater that is beyond this life, that our life has purpose, that it has meaning, that there really is a mission for us to be doing it, that it's just not simply living out because of some species that absolutely cares nothing about what they've created. They simply create the mess and they move on. And if, in fact, galactic wars are the mentality of what man has, because as above, so below, right? And if man creates wars, what makes us think that other species wouldn't create wars? And what makes us think that something doesn't own this planet? And I don't think it's any God in any Jewish or Christian or Islamic Bible or any Hindu. Those thoughts don't exist. It's something else. Something that all of that has been patterned off of. And it eludes our consciousness. That's why we discuss these subjects in here in a classroom academic setting. We don't get emotional about it because of our religious or ideological or theological, philosophical beliefs. We try to look at things for what it is and say, well, obviously we haven't come up with the right answer at this point. There has to be a better alternative. There has to be something that we're not seeing, something we're missing. And that's why you have metaphysical beliefs. You have, the truther movement, because we realize instinctively something's not right. And by all evidence, I think that whatever jacked us to begin with, that great leap that we can define, folks, I think we're in the midst of another great. I think this one's going to far exceed the last one. Now, it's been talked about that this is an ascension to the fifth dimension, that, there is this DNA regeneration, reprogramming taking place. I think that there may be evidence for all of that. But my biggest concern I have, and I'm not alone in this, is that the prior occupants are coming back. And they're not friendlies. They don't look at themselves as whether friendly or bad. They just are. They want to come back and see how their experiment is doing. By all indications, we haven't exactly, how shall we say, been the shining star. Some say they're already here. That the advanced group arrived a little while ago. I think that there may be something to this, folks. I really do. And we're going to continue to explore this. This is what we do here. We look at all the different philosophies and thoughts. This is one that I've been hesitant. I've done enough videos on it. But to directly get into some of the key discussion points here. And it insults my cognitive and reasoning to think that we are nothing more than a petri dish, an experiment. But all the indications say that's exactly what we are, folks. Sapiens are very recent. We're different in so many different ways, but yet we're so much connected beyond that which we've even begun to fathom. So we look at the esoteric part of this. Well, where's the spirituality point come into this? Is it even spirituality after death? I don't know. We may have been looking at this wrong all along. Maybe it's not even anything to do with spiritual. Maybe it's something that's much more profound than that. And that the best that we can comprehend and interpret it is by putting a spiritual personification, application to it. And this is deep stuff. I understand. And I'm trying to be able to walk the tightrope here, not getting so far in extremes in one belief or the other that we end up falling. And sometimes, the wind starts, you're going to go, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening here? And we don't want to fall off there, but we do have a safety line. I'll just tell you that. So, lots to consider. We are in a time, folks, unlike anything. And something is a brewing. There's no doubt about it. And I don't think the meal just started. I think they've been cooking this up for a while. So, all right. Deep thoughts. Yeah, I know. Trina and I'll probably talk more about this because it involves us all. And all I'm trying to say is this, is there something else beside the spiritual component? I mean, we all look at this thing as, we're spirits and we have a body and, we're going to go to heaven or we're not, or we're going to go into multi-dimensions. What if it's none of that at all? That there is, in fact, an existence, but one that we haven't even begun to grasp. Well, yeah, I can hear people are saying, but you're saying we're in a petri dish. I think that's where we came from. I don't think there was any God that phantomed us. I mean, listen, we studied the Liber Lilith, and it was a delightful story. But Lilith, I'm not buying it, darling. unless her writings were inherent, and I'm going to have to go back and look at this. Maybe it was not perceived correctly. Maybe if we look this as her story being nothing more than the story of a geneticist. Now that might make some rational sense. Anyway, thank everyone for being here. I hope this has stimulated thought. It's not to be, taken good or bad. It's just discussing. I mean, we live in a time and an age now where everyone is so offended. And I'm thinking, my goodness, if something was to happen, how offended would people be? It's like, oh, Truth Seeker, I think it may be. I tell you, I know it sounds crazy. I get it. But I'm telling you, I've got volumes of legal notepads that I've just been writing on. We look like to be a genetic experiment. And our genetic code is breaking down. These are not hypotheses. These are actualities. That tells me that it wasn't perfect to begin with. Who knows? All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor. Appreciate you so much. Created from algae. Trina, no, I think that your visits to the Lord were very poignant, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow, because I do believe that I think there are such beings that when they found out what happened here to us, they were so indignant, so enraged, that I think it's where this war began. And again, whoever got kicked out were apparently much nicer than the ones that are here right now. I think they're not about to let this place go. It's too rare. That's one thing I think we can all agree with. Earth, Gaia, Sophia, she is beautiful, and she is a jewel among the jewels. All right, folks, Jupiter ascending. Makes it sense, doesn't it? Sometimes you wonder, you cannot argue with truth. Okay, no, I agree with you, my dear. All right, folks, I will see you tomorrow, and, let's keep on talking. That's the best thing we can do, isn't it? All right. Much peace. Love you, folks. Bye-bye.